Welcome, everybody. Sitting here with Nicole Cumbie. Nicole, thank you for joining us today.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, and we worked together for quite some time, and you're just always such a bright, excited, optimistic personality. So you're the perfect person to bring on in these times of like people not feeling so much optimism.
I think it
Right?
all affects us.
Yeah.
Too, yeah.
Yeah. And I see that when you and I talk about real estate, and we're kind of coming out guns blazing here. When you and I talk about real estate, like I see that I know that you connect so deeply with all your clients and like their needs and their emotions. And like you're so personal on that end with people that seeing kind of the rough dynamics and things that we're dealing with, like I see you get like it's weighs on you.
Oh yeah. It's definitely been weighing this year for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And what well, and so we're kind of rambling a bunch of things, but let's do quick introductions. You've been in Flagstaff for how long?
15 years.
15 years. Okay, so just barely longer than me. And how long have you been doing real estate?
8 years.
8 years. Okay.
Yeah.
Perfect. Was there a career? Well, and you have 2 wonderful children. Hope
Yes.
they're wonderful most of the time, right?
Most of the time, right?
And so, did you have a career, like a big career before real estate, or mostly?
So I've always done outside, inside sales,
Okay.
and then I stayed home with the kids for a
Okay.
couple of years, which isn't really good for me to do. I'm more of I need to get out and achieve things, goal oriented.
You're achieving things as motherhood, but
but it's just different. It's very different.
It's very different.
Very hard. And
Yes.
some people are fit for it and some are not. And
Correct.
so I ended up in real estate because I started looking for a part-time job just to work part-time as they were still little, and ended up in a real estate office. And it was because I networked with some friends of mine and just said, hey, do you know of anything part-time I could do?
Yeah.
And that's how I started with Daniel Collins.
I love it. That's awesome.
Yeah. And so really that's 9 years ago, because I started working with him for a full year before I got licensed.
Okay. Yeah. So 9 years in real estate here in Flagstaff. And as far as the passion for real estate, so you had the inside sales thing. So that's probably like, am I safe to assume like the customer service background? You like to help people. You like to connect with people.
Yeah.
How has real estate kind of seemed to fit well for you?
Well, I don't belong behind a desk.
You got to know yourself.
I can't do that.
Yeah.
And part of that was being the part-time, and I was behind the desk and I was doing things, and that was fine, but like I wasn't challenged enough. And I've said in the past, I'm going to not do sales, which is a joke, because how could I not? Because I like the challenges of it, and I thrive on the challenges. So and no offense to desk job.
Well, sure.
Repetitive type stuff. I just can't handle that. I just am too bored.
Yeah.
And so I like that every day is different, and that I do have some control of my schedule sometimes.
Yeah.
And other times, no, I don't. But the flexibility is great, and being to be with my kids and
absolutely
doing activities with them.
I love it. And still seeking, I mean, there's just so much opportunity to decide how do you want to pace that out, and how much you want to chase. And right now, so you like a challenge, right? Here comes the Fed, right? And then interest rates and everything we've been dealing with right now. But it sounds like you're, and I know you to be an optimist. So where are you optimist? Where's the opportunity, Nicole, in this market for people right now?
Well, again, I think we've talked about this before, is that I don't think there's ever a perfect time to buy. It's when it's a necessity sometimes, or it's when it makes sense for you. It's not okay, I can't do this. Let me just keep waiting and keep waiting. And we've had these conversations on the cost of waiting. And I've had a client that waited and waited, and I sold him a house last February was when we closed, I think. And his direction changed a bit too, but like he kind of got in at a good time when he got in, too, because things were starting to kind of slow at that time or whatever. And he's very much a statistics and first
There you
guy,
go.
things
There
like
you go.
that.
Yeah.
Yeah. But you know, he realizes the costs of waiting because we
Sure.
were looking at different types of properties at first, and we saw one that we looked at originally. It came back on the market a couple years
Gotcha.
later
Okay.
at very much more, and so I think it gave him like an eye opening of like, okay, well, I got to figure this out, what I want to do, and I'm not one to like. It's all about the person and their decision. It's never my decision.
Definitely. Definitely. Well, and I think, is it a goal then that you have? And I feel like most realtors, or I feel like in lenders that do the best job possible, is it's to be able to then connect and educate on those goals, right? And
Yeah.
so that's where I think a lot of people, well, we know like the industry has been flooded with a lot of professional, I should be careful using the word professionals. It's been flooded, right? There's lots of people that think, oh, anyone can sell a house or anyone can do a mortgage. Um, and then a lot of those folks get, and whether they're new to the industry or, the cream rises to the top, when it's like some people get gun shy, right? And they're like, oh, well, I'm just going to let you plan the best time for you. And that's not necessarily the right answer. Like, it's like, I will help you when the time is right for you, but what are your goals for that time? And how can I educate you to meet those goals? Right.
Well, I think we give good nudges
Yeah.
with the education, and I believe wholeheartedly in educating
Yeah.
each one of them, especially with our first time buyers. I try my best to give a lot of knowledge and education so that they feel comfortable through the process. But yeah, I think sometimes the gentle nudges, or sometimes it's just you got to let them learn a little bit. Like you go and they lose a
Yeah.
house,
Yeah.
and then, oh gosh, maybe I need to get things in gear,
There's
you know?
nothing like firsthand experience.
Exactly.
And where I was saying that too is in that, well, I think too some of that is the hard questions. I'm really excited. I think right now in these challenging times, hard questions are the most value right
Yeah.
now. Right? Like I was working with, or I was sitting down with some clients last night, and we were talking. They had the perception, and I really can appreciate that they'd done a lot of homework and a lot of thinking. They've been really kind of pre-studied before they even decided to do a pre-qualification or actually sit down with me. And so they were kind of coming from the standpoint of, we know the home we want is a long-term home. We know that's probably going to be, kind of more on the expensive range. And so we think to have the monthly payment we want, that we're going to need to save quite a bit more for our down payment. We're going to need to like triple our down payment. And so they'd come with this kind of, so they'd done a lot of thinking, which was awesome. But it was awesome that they were also open enough as we started talking through then, and me being able to guide, okay, here's where market is at. Here's where, appreciation expectation is kind of like, lower single digits this year, but historical average is 3 to 5% year over year. So here's your goal in the home. Here's where the home prices could be going. Here's how fast you think you can save that money, to where they realize like, now our goal needs to shift. And they was kind of saying like, we maybe can't get that home, but we can get this home, and we need to shoot for, instead of tripling or quadrupling our down payment, we just need to double it.
I think it's expectations too.
Yeah.
People come with a lot of expectations of, okay, this is going to be my forever home, and this is what I really want, and I want to shoot for the moon essentially. And I'm sorry to say that it's the moon sometimes, but
Yeah.
with the realistic of price and budget and what they have available, it's educating them on, okay, this is what we have at this time. If this is where you want to be, if Flagstaff is where you want to be, maybe you start here, and this is a starter home, and it's
Yeah.
not your forever home, and it's you have the pros and cons, and you list what you really want and maybe what you can kind of get away with until you get to build some equity, and then be the move up buyer, as you say.
Yeah. Well, and oh, man, and it's crazy. So I was talking with my business coach, and that was just who I was on the line with before we stepped into this interview, and something we were working on last month. Do you do a business coach? Have you ever done business coaching?
I haven't, but I have looked
Mentors and
into
things.
it,
Yeah.
and yeah.
And so it's helpful for me because it's so funny to me, where it feels like I think it is a high value to me. I've been doing professional coaching for like 4 years, and it seems like I pay someone to state the obvious because that's how dense I am. To where when I was talking with them on like and more so like it comes up all the time of like work life balance and
Yeah.
priorities and how do I get everything in and so one line he gave me that's just been haunting me for like the last month is um like you have to really think about what you want to say yes to. And that's been super, super valuable to me in starting to say, okay, I have a hard time saying no to certain things, but I need to in my life prioritize the yeses first, and then I can think about what then that means I have to say no to. Right. Pretty simple, right? Pretty obvious, kind of like you could have gotten like a $10 help book versus the more expensive coaching session. Right. But where I'm going with this with clients, I think it's really impactful, just like you're saying, for them to think, what do I really need to say yes to on the house? Like, this is what this is like, we blur needs and wants so much in our modern day society, like where it's like, like you think, hey, it's a life necessity
Right.
for it to have Dutch Bros. Like, no, you don't need Dutch Bros. You know what I'm saying? Like,
Well, it's is it a must have? Is it a I can live without,
yeah,
or I can what is the word I'm looking for? Like I can maybe have three columns, a must have, a in the middle, and you know, I could do without
yeah.
this. And so it's just trying to say, well, here's what we have. Are you willing to see what options there are, and take a look at things? Always go and see a house,
Yeah.
because pictures really don't do them justice sometimes.
Exactly. And man, so many things like I hope this is helpful for people because I just think a lot of common sense right now is needed right now when you think, and I said this with these clients last night of, I think it's a good reminder for us that you can pick your choice, but you can't choose your consequences, or choose your choice. You can't choose your consequences. Right. And so that's where I think a lot of folks need to understand of like, if you want to live here in Flagstaff, like the best thing that me and Nicole can do for you is just give you the tough chat first to say, if you really want that longer, if you really want to shoot the moon, like we can't have our cake and eat it too. So what are you going to give up or sacrifice to shoot
Mm-hmm.
the moon on that? Or in this current market, and we've talked about this quite a lot too, is saying, all right, you really want that lower payment. We've all talked that rates are coming down, and you want to wait till rates come down to get that payment. That is awesome, and that's a choice, and you can totally make that choice. But you can't choose the market conditions that are existing with competition, home prices, when rates drop.
Right. And we're already seeing that competition. We had that conversation the other day, right?
Yeah.
That some houses are getting multiple offers.
So give us the pulse. This is the Nicole Cumbie week of April 21st. Is it 23rd? I don't even know the week.
25th is today.
It's the 25th, the week of April 24th. So the last full week of April here. What are we seeing are we seeing spring inventory?
I mean, a little bit, but
So not a lot of it. Okay.
No, you look at the, hot sheet and you're like, yesterday seemed like a good day, but on a Monday you can't judge because it's all the listings from the weekend. So like today's a better day to kind of be like, okay, what's the daily? But there's been time on the weekends where it's Saturday, Sunday, and nothing's coming on, and which is not abnormal, but still you're 100 less. That's what we said. I think 100 less than last year at this time, inventory wise.
Which
100 less homes, I think.
It's kind of a staggering number.
And then if you say the rates are going to drop, and if they do in May, like
it's a win. I'm so confident.
Right, like, yeah. And so, yes, you're confident. Then we still have less inventory, and rates are more
Now everyone just had
affordability.
the affordability increase.
And
Yeah.
there's going to be a lot more competition for sure.
Yeah. Yeah. Do you anticipate more inventory coming on?
Yeah, because,
More steady, not real big bumps though. So we're not.
well, you got to think of school.
Yeah. So school year might see some bump.
Yeah. Well, because May, if people need to move, if there's relocations or whatever, a lot of people wait till their kids are out of school. Our kids' age.
So we might be a little bit on the the K through 12 cycle like you're talking about. So we might be a little bit on the early end of inventory pop.
Well, and then the college, if they're done with college and their parents are, you know, it was an investment for them.
Sure.
They're going to let go of those in May, June, depending
Sure.
on where their leases are at.
Yeah. Well, and I guess not that we're just, picking up ideas here, but I know that the winter hit a lot of homes physically and yards very hard. Do you have clients that you're talking to that are like, hey, I'm going to get this roof stuff kind of patched up and fixed up or get some drywall done before we list? Or do you have
a situation with one of my listings that we put on the market and we didn't know of it until everything was out. And we had a carpet cleaner over there getting ready to clean the carpets, and he smelled a mildewy smell. We figured out that there was an ice dam situation so we pulled it right back off the market, and it's still been off the market. It will be back on hopefully in a few weeks. We're still waiting on the construction part to be done. Because they've had to rip out walls and and insurance was involved and things like that. But I've even had current clients that have bought from me in the past say, hey, I need some contractors. I've got water in my walkout basement. And so there's a lot of things that have gone on this winter.
And it's big. And I think, so this is, as we kind of just, have this casual conversation on things, I'm highly interested. I think this is like this could be a very powerful, like Nicole Cumbie, how to list your house situation. Cause a lot of people are probably concerned on now. So let's ask the hard questions. Do you dig into it or do you wait for someone else to dig into it? So do you get like a home inspection on your house and you're kind of concerned about some things? Do you kind of get that? So then you're then legally aware of all these things and have to then disclose them or have to deal with them. What is your
I feel like there's two sides to that. I mean, there are the pre-listing home inspections that you can do, and there are homeowners that want to do that and just have things up to par. But then again, we're in an as-is contract, so they don't have to necessarily fix things. But once you have an inspection, you have to disclose what you found. So there's that. And so there's two sides. There's the other side where the homeowner's like, I'd rather let the buyer just do it. We'll figure it out when it comes and that sort of thing. In this situation, we had to, with this listing, we had the homeowners like, nope, I want to take it down. I want to get it done correctly. And, that's what we did. So it's really the homeowner's decision each time. But more often than not, in my experience, I haven't seen too many people do the pre-listing
inspection.
Some of them do it, but it's very few. They kind of say, well, let's just negotiate or figure it out when it comes.
Okay. And I think so, and is it, you're the realtor, is it good advice? I guess you're careful. There's like attorney-client privileges. If it's like, hey, there might be some bit of an ice dam or something here, that probably, if you know that there's some potential issues, you need to talk to your agent, your realtor, your representative about it, and then determine your strategy on it.
Well, I mean, in this case, like we went in and we could smell the smell. And then we had contractors in. I'm not the expert. But
moisture meters. Do you have a moisture meter at home?
You know what? One of the contractors said, Nicole, why don't you go buy yourself one of these and take it with you everywhere you go, especially this year because this happened in Pinnacle Pines, actually. And they said that they were doing several homes in that area that had the ice dam situations happening. And one of them, the roof did collapse. So so one of them was like, go on Amazon and buy you one, take it with you. I'm like, you know what? That's something I need to put in my tool bag.
I totally have. It's the best. Because we're paranoid with, like, don't ask my wife. Like, so I do a lot of DIY and I do fine with a lot of things, but we've kind of found out, especially in recent times, that plumbing's not my forte. And water can do damage real fast. And so, we were putting our girls to bed last night and she's looking up and she's like, I think you got a soft spot on the ceiling there. And so I pull out my drywall saw and sure enough, we found out that we called the professionals, and a toilet supply line was just kind of slow dripping. And luckily it's pretty manageable at this rate, but Yeah. Anyways, so yeah, I always like to know, like, just put the water meter at it. Where's the water? And with the ice dams, that was helpful to like, well,
Well,
here's this not. Yeah.
I've also had people think, well, we don't have mold up here. And I'm like, oh, yes, we do. We do get mold up here.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
It happens. It's usually leaks
Yeah.
or not ventilated crawl spaces and
Yeah.
lots of different things. But
Yeah.
it can happen in
We
this dry climate.
100% have. I mean, I feel fortunate. Like we have our own set of issues with our climate, but like, what was it? I was on vacation in a tropical destination where like I just walked in the room and I'm totally that person that will like make do. I'm not high maintenance, self-stated. Like I'm not, but I had to go to the front and be like, guys, the room smells of complete like mold. When I thought I saw something on the wall and I touched it, like the wall was giving way. And so I'm like, like those climates, I don't know how they do it, where it's just like, no, you cannot have flat or satin in the house. You probably have to have like high sheen, everything, just to try and get water from permeating every little nook and cranny of your house when you're in that high humidity. So we definitely get fortunate that way.
Yeah.
What else? So let's kind of continue down that vein though a little bit. So sellers being aware of their condition, their property condition. What are other things that you think a seller needs to kind of keep in mind, or a potential would-be seller, right?
Well, I think some sellers are newer owners, I guess.
Yeah.
Say in the last 2 years. I mean, we've had a couple clients like, Valerie and I were talking the other day and she's like, yeah, I've had a couple clients say, I don't think I want to live through another winter after this winter. So there's going to be some inventory that is created by someone that says that was too big of a winter for me. I don't think I can do this again, and not that we do it every year because, we've been here 15 years and
exactly. But I think then the opportunity is saying like, all right, you've had these couple last years that have given you a big bump on the value of that home. And that at least at this point in time, we don't see, experts aren't predicting in aggregate of experts aren't predicting decline, but they're also not predicting massive continued acceleration. Right. So if it's a matter of, do you want to get out now? And if you hold on to your house the next year or two, like if that's the best timing for you, then fantastic. But equity wise, you're not probably like, don't hang on to think that you're going to go through another 30% equity increase cycle in the next 3 years.
Oh, no.
Right. So if now is a good time, it might be good to cash out.
Yeah. Well, and for someone that hasn't lived in the winter climate for very long, this one was a doozy.
Yeah.
I mean, it kind of tested even us who have lived here for this long.
Yeah.
I mean, it was a lot of snow.
It was a lot of snow. It was a lot of snow. Well, and I think too, one other topic that we were talking on Mastermind is in our for everyone that's new to this, we meet it monthly with as a professional base here, the Airbnb market. Let's talk about that, Nicole. Your face says you have something to say about that.
I don't know. I mean, we knew it was getting saturated.
Yep.
And we still seem like that's going on.
Yeah.
We saw some houses in Kachina come up, that kind of were like, oh, Airbnb. And, so I don't know. And then hasn't been any regulations yet, but I know that's something, there's talk about that. So.
And and I think we kind of went through this. There was this like euphoria time with it, especially and it's interesting, like we were all kind of bad mouthing, and still I kind of bad mouth it still a little bit, but like the second home, this is like almost now 2 years. It's 2 years now that they changed second home rates to mirror investor rates versus primary rates. And my guess is in large part due to kind of that gray area of short-term rental, and that could could have been utilized at that point. So folks are getting, and it was all on the up and up, right? It was just a little bit of gray area that you can say, hey, this is a home that I intend to utilize for my intents and purposes, but you can actually get some passive income on it from nightly rental. And that was, and it is still a thing. You can still utilize second home to some extent with that. There's, dot I's and cross T's on making sure we're on the right side of intent on that, all that. But that we saw so many people getting into that market, and and also that we see when you're clicking around there, that I get it. If you have, so I was talking with this gentleman, Brian, is in Dallas with Benchmark, real sharp guy who's really into the short-term rental game, really into it. Has 3 short-term rentals that it just in his personal portfolio, and he was telling me kind of his metrics that he's been looking at on it, and one of them that is really big is he's like, it's got to be destination, location, and it's got to be a unicorn. Right. So it's like the house on the lake, the house on the beach, the house in the ski in, ski out. All right. And what's interesting is I think and I know Flagstaff that we are a destination location. So we check that box, but a lot of the houses that you look on here, like no offense, but I'm like, do I really want to go vacation there? Right. It's not a vacation house. Like there's no near amenities, or it's really not the unicorn. Right. It's not the big mountain house. Right. It's just like anything. And I think we saw enough activity just with the pandemic and vacations and different things and people moving around that I talked to several different short-term managers that said that was just this hot market for them, but that's shifting pretty rapidly, right? That only the things that are really nicely updated, that really have the nicer amenities, are really even booking. I don't know.
I think, so we have a guy, Kyle, in our office that he does short-term property management, Kyle Jones.
Okay.
And he has a company that does the short-term rental stuff, but he would be a great one to talk to about that, because he, manages the short-term rentals. And
what's he been saying? Has he been talking to your office recently at all?
No, but I've brought him in with clients because they were going to remodel a home, and how long it takes to get contractors and different things going. Like honestly, their remodel is not even starting till May of this year, and we closed August of last year.
Wow.
So it's just with all the things I think they want to do, it's just taking that time.
Sure.
But I brought him in initially to talk with him, and he kind of went into that, explained that, you're going to have people that are going to want certain things, and those are going to be the houses that book, and the ones that are just, not so great or not so luxurious or, that sort of thing. They're not going to book. Yeah.
And but this is, everyone, it seems like we're really negative on the podcast sometime right now here, but this is good, right? This is so good, I think, in the sense of saying, hey, if you own property and you are banking on that making a certain amount, you might want to do a 1031 right now, right? And find a different asset if you think that home, just in a standard little townhome or something community here in Flagstaff, with the cookie cutter yard like everybody else, the cookie cutter house like everybody else, and the no offense, and the furniture you got off of Craigslist. There's some interesting ones out there, right? Just say it's probably not going to perform like
the way you expected.
Yeah, the pro forma that you ran 2 years ago, and it might be a good time to rediversify that. And so I think I hope for that. I'm hopeful for that. There is some certainly bias, some personal bias when I'm like, I want to promote the primary homeowner, right? Here in Flagstaff.
When did we do those statistics where we said it flipped? Remember, we had a mastermind and we did the statistics. We need to do that again. We need to research how many.
Where there's more investors in Flagstaff and second homes than primary homes.
Remember when we did those numbers?
Yeah. We need to do those again.
We need to run that again.
Yeah.
See if there's change. That'll be a good.
Calling you Jenny at Pioneer on site, because that's probably what you do, right? You just statistically look at on-site addresses versus non-on-site addresses. Tyler County. We're gonna get on that. But yeah, I mean, and that's what's hard. That's what's really hard, because I don't want to say, because a lot of people like to think that we're special.
Because like you were saying with Flagstaff, we are a destination, but we're not a ski in, ski out destination. Not exactly like Colorado or other Utah, or I'm not sure, but we don't have that. We don't really have lakes. We do have one right now because Lake Mary is now full.
It's now more like a sea or ocean category right now, I think. No, but that's where what's interesting, because we've always talked about like, hey, you know, we're on the Aspen path, right? That we're just going to be this expensive little ski town. But the one stark difference that we've looked at is like the population. Let's actually do this real quick. So the population of Flagstaff is like 75,000 or so, right?
Oh yeah, it's probably up there.
And if we talk about, okay, what is the population of Aspen, Colorado? Let's see, because that's maybe a little bit bigger town than some of the different destinations. No, the actual population of Aspen is 6,900 people.
What about Breckenridge?
Let's look at Breckenridge. All right. 5,000. Let's look at Park City. I think Park City is a little higher.
Should be.
8,400. That's 2 years ago.
Really?
Yeah. So that's the challenging thing, where like them having 50% or less than 50% totally could see it. Totally could see it, because their towns are destination by nature. Even Sedona, like I hate to bring it up. Like I don't want to, I know there's people that live there full time and love it, and that's great. But like, there really is no industry. And I kind of like, I don't know, I kind of laugh with that a little bit of like, you guys don't like vacation rentals down there, and you don't like some of the tourism, but you haven't done anything else to my knowledge to actually have industry.
Right.
And so what are you going to get? Like you kind of, me and Cole were talking about this. I did this, Cole. I did this with my daughter last night. I was like, you put bread or you have, or dough, marinara sauce, cheese, and pepperoni. What are you going to get? You're going to get a pizza, right?
Right.
And I was trying to, so that was kind of in the same, like you choose your choice, but you don't choose your consequences. Right. So I'm like, yeah, you have this beautiful town. You have, you don't want to touch the nature, and you just want to keep like, and you have tons of hotels, and you have some housing. It's all going to turn into vacation. And that's your industry.
That is all the industry in Sedona, right? I mean, am I wrong? Like, there's nothing else there.
So that's where I kind of feel like we're coming up with this double standard here, where Flagstaff shouldn't be, because we do have some industry, right? We're not purely tourism. It doesn't seem, I would be interested, and I'm ignorant now as I talk through it, like probably chatting with the Chamber of Commerce or something, like what percentage of Flagstaff's economy. Let's Google this again. I need like, you need to be my Jamie to my Joe Rogan here, Colin. Like, you know, you can ask him anything. You can have it on the fly.
Oh, there you go.
We'll get you going on that. But so I'll be my own Google here of like, what percentage of Flagstaff, I should have just voice texted it here, a Flagstaff economy is tourism. What's your guess? I think we can get an answer. Let's see. No. What?
How much?
Well, I'm going to have to check my sources here. Let's see. Northern Arizona, because here's the nau.edu link. Okay. And at least I'm just looking at their little highlight of it, because there is a lot of different numbers here. But it says directly and indirectly, tourism in Flagstaff accounts for more than 20% of all business in town. Hotels and restaurants alone employ 8% of the workforce. 20%. So it shouldn't be. So vacation and second homes shouldn't be 60% of the housing.
But it flipped. Remember,
it flipped.
Remember, we need to do those numbers again.
We're gonna do those numbers. I'm putting it down. We're gonna do those numbers. So, but yeah. So there you go. Public announcement to any Airbnb owners there. Find a better rate of return. Fill the benevolence and nobility of giving your house to a private, or selling at a top dollar number to a local primary homeowner. I think that message needs to get out somehow. Right.
Yeah. To some of them that are not performing, for sure.
Yeah. Or flip it, at least flip it long term. Be interesting. And probably some will. A lot will.
Yeah.
If you don't want to hang on, just sell it. Just sell. Call Nicole Cumbie. So what else? Any other opportunities? So that's an opportunity. People need to be thinking. What are there maybe opportunities or hard questions people need to be asking in this market? What do you think?
Well, I know that for the move up buyers, or, like I have 2 buyers right now, but they're sellers. So it's buyers and sellers. Okay. Got to sell to buy, and they want to be more in Flagstaff proper. So, there's some nervousness with them of am I going to find a place? But I got to get this one sold before I can move on this one.
Yeah.
Um,
That is an excellent quandary for us to talk about here and dive into, because a lot of people get stuck, right? And and I totally have that sense of empathy, that I think the national average is that most people will do a real estate transaction 7 to 8 times in their life, right? You and I are doing on different times and seasons are doing that or double that on a monthly basis, kind of thing, and saying, okay, so even though we can feel like we're simply just, it's another day, there's a lot of pieces to that, buy and sell, contingency. What do we do? Do we sell first? Do we whatever first? And I'll fully disclaim that there's a lot of different ways to skin a cat. And like we were talking before, it just depends on the client's goals. And
it's a juggling act. It's having a place to go. If the home is, selling and you haven't found that placement yet, just got to look into extended stay. Can you stay with family? Can you put your stuff in storage? You got to think of all the different options of what may make or what can happen through the process.
So let's play the game, and maybe I'll one day create this board game. It's like the Office Space, where like the jump to conclusions. Remember that one? Yeah. So this is my choose your choice, not your consequences. If you choose to sell before you've identified the move up property, what are the pros and cons?
Well, it depends on the market for the home.
Let's talk kind of general Flagstaff right now.
Flagstaff.
General Flagstaff right now. And that's an excellent point and observation, and that's why you do your job, right? Is saying if you're moving up from a different location, how does that look versus, you're selling in California versus you're selling back east? Like there's a lot more dynamic to the speed of that market.
There's been a big difference from Williams to here right now.
Yeah. Oh, really? In what way? Flagstaff is moving hotter and faster than Williams. Okay.
Williams has more inventory.
Okay.
And I think some of that is a tribute to what you were saying about second homeowners and investment rates and because this is the time we usually see our second homeowners, investor, people out trying to get into the home before the summer. But I don't know. I mean,
I was with Devin and Tyler last week and saying, hey, Williams, no, I don't think we did a stiff comparison of Flagstaff and Williams right now, other than saying just opportunity wise, like Williams needs to be on the map, in my opinion, a lot more than it is.
Yeah, and I mean, there's just different. It's a very big difference. You can't compare Williams to Flagstaff. It's just two different areas. Yeah. But yeah, no, they have quite a bit more inventory than we do right now.
Okay. Gotcha. So that's a positive.
So they're a little bit in the. Yeah. According to the little market things that I look at, they're more in that buyer's market category.
So the buyers. There you go, folks. You want to negotiate?
Negotiate. You can go to Williams and negotiate.
I love it. So let's reduce variables here and just say if you're moving in Flagstaff to Flagstaff and you decide you want to prioritize the sale and get listed, get it done, remove that contingency. What are the pros and cons?
What do you mean? So you
just they want to move up. They want to move up, but they say, "Hey, Nicole, we understand that contingency could be difficult."
Yeah.
So that's a con, right? So it could be difficult for a seller to bite off on this, and we don't. And then there's the variable of then we don't really know what we'll make, so we don't really know our, where we can punch on our price point necessarily as much. Because then we might want to look at this home or that home, right?
Well, if they want to list the home and not have the replacement property, like you said, and
identified it under contract yet,
right? And want to just see what they're going to do, they have to have a plan of where they're going to live once they sell the home.
So that's a big potential con, right? Is you're going to have to move.
You're going to have to back up your stuff, and you're going to have to put it in storage, or you're going to have to secure a short-term rental, or you're going to figure out what plan B is while you're selling your home, because if you get it under contract and it sells and it's 30 days, you have to be out. Yeah. So you have to have all that in line if you're just wanting to sell and then decide okay, I'm going to buy. But
Yeah.
a lot of times we help sellers figure out how to do it. And it is a juggling act. And because you don't also want to identify that replacement property and then you can't sell your property, then that's not the property either,
Yeah.
right? So it's a big juggling act. That's what our job
That's right. Hire a
is.
professional. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and let's talk through that a little bit so people can understand how that juggling act can happen a little bit. And again, everyone, this is not personal advice for you. You got to call Nicole. You got to call me. You got to take your situation into account. And there are also some situations where you want to talk to an attorney as well.
Yep.
And that's where we're talking about like pre and post possessions.
Sure.
Right. So if you say, hey, we're going to, I had some great friends of mine sold the house. They're not moving for another month. And so they said, hey, we want to sell the house. We don't want to move twice. And so instead of finding some interim solution, like Mr. Mrs. Buyer, would you allow us to rent back for a month? And, and we see that type of stuff happen.
Those are things where we say consult, legal and also your CPA or your insurance too, because that's another thing. You have to consult because if they're renting back, who's the owner of the property? You're the owner of the property. The homeowner is the homeowner that has the insurance on the property, not the renter.
Yeah.
And remember last year when we had some flooding in Coconino Estates?
Yes.
There was some situations with post-possession that came into play, flooding and so yeah, you got to contact the other sources of expert advice besides us.
So pre and post possession, I think sometimes uses that buffer.
Yep.
That can help. And sometimes it's a beautiful, beautiful thing. And like you're saying, and we see it actually happen quite often. And I'd go so far as to say it's the majority. Majority is over 50%, right? So the majority of the move ups I would probably say that I've experienced and just guessing here on the spot that are as slick as same day. Right. So you sell a house, you get under contract, you find the replacement home, you kind of build dates out accordingly to where, one end or the other is going to be patient with you finding the replacement house. And especially right now, I'd probably say as a seller, you hold more cards, right? Right. In Flagstaff.
Yes.
So where if you say, hey, I'm going to sell, you really want my house, you really want the opportunity, and it's a great house, great location, let's do a 60-day close. And I'm going to work to find a replacement house in that. And we see that quite often where then all of a sudden in a week or so, they find the replacement house, get the negotiation on it, and they close in 45, right?
Yeah.
And they sold one house in the morning and they bought the other house in the afternoon. There's no pre and post possessions, which get liability and a little messier. And you got to seek more counsel. I'd say that most of them go that way. Would you, in your experience?
It can. It can totally happen that way. And as you are a seller, you can dictate, okay, how long do I need? If I need more time, then I'm going to need more time. We see escrows go longer than 60 days sometimes. It's not often and it's not a lot, but we can still put that buffer in there and say, okay, let's just do this and see if we can find that property within this time frame.
Sure.
And a lot of times it does happen.
Yeah.
And that's where, I feel like that's our biggest part of the job as a realtor is the juggling act of it. Absolutely. We're trying to maintain all the timelines and get everything moving, but there's multiple parties involved, and so we're talking to all of those parties and keeping the communication open through the whole process so that it all hopefully runs smoothly to the end goal.
Yeah. And so I think, well, there's a lot of pieces that you just said to where the key to a lot of folks, I think right now is understanding that it takes work and not all agents or realtors are ready for work. So I think a lot of people do get bad advice. If you're out there and you're thinking of selling a home and you're getting kind of the discouragement from your realtor, I'm like, no, you can't, you got to sell first. You can't time this. You can't do that. I have some clients go through that, Nicole.
Yeah.
I can see on your face. They're like, what are people doing? But I have a lot of clients that say like, and get discouraged on it, or like they just, I think a lot of, and in general right now, not to broaden this whole comment is, there's a lot of people able to say like, this is going to be hard. Let's tap out.
Well, I think that comes back to education on how is this going to go.
Yes.
This is how it's going to go. It's going to be a roller coaster because it is going to be a roller coaster because it's hard to to do the juggling of selling and buying, and it is going to be an emotional roller coaster.
Yep.
You know, and so I think it's just preparing them for, let's have, you know, different plans, or how could we adapt if this plan doesn't work the way we thought it was going to work.
Yep.
You know, and just having options and choices, because you don't want to ever have anyone homeless
No,
in a sense, you know,
no,
like
no.
not having a place to go. Like, you know, okay, well, if I sell this, where am I going to go? That's my first question. Do you have family you can move in with for a
Yeah.
month? Do you have somewhere you can go? Yeah. Do you have a RV you could stay in for a little bit? Because that is an option for some
Yeah.
people.
Yeah.
I mean, it totally is. You know, it's summertime, so great. You go live in the RV for a month.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think, well, some of it too is, you know, I do believe that some people need to be willing to, and again, the hard questions is the honesty on the priorities. And I do believe in the principle, if you want to take the island, you got to burn your boat. Right. And so if you really want to move up and you've talked with the experts and the devil's in the details, you fine tune this all out, that if you are really serious about making a move up happen, there is an aggressive plan in that selling, right? If you're opportunistic, I got no problem with that, right? And if you want to prioritize your comfort on that and, like, you know, being able to move once and do all that, I have no problem with that. But just, I think I do get a little concerned with some folks saying, like, hey, they just really want to make that move up happen. And it's so, you see it as such a high priority to them by, like, you, and I think in general in this market with certain decision points, you got to be willing to be a little uncomfortable.
It's going to be uncomfortable.
There's going to be certain things that are going to be a little uncomfortable, right?
Yeah.
Again, in the choosing your choices here.
Well, and the emotions usually go high. You know, having to pack up your house.
Oh yeah.
Get it ready. Yeah. Move. I mean, you and I haven't moved in a long time, right? Or
yeah, no, it was, so I moved 3 years ago, and before that it was like 8 years, and I didn't have any kids on the 8-year like move, or it was 10. That was 10. Sorry, 10 now. It's my daughter's 10. So we were pregnant with our first when we moved, and then we just did our first move with kids, and we have 4 of them. Self-inflicted. We get it, everybody.
Yes.
But yeah, I'm like, no, I never want to do this again, ever.
Right. And so you and I help people do this a lot, right?
Yeah.
Like you said, some months more than others. I haven't moved in a long time. When I last moved, my son was a year old. Versus if we were to move today, they're in tweens. I don't even want to think about that a little bit.
No.
So you have to, like, put yourself in the shoes of where they're at, what kind of things they have to move, what are they going to have to do with kids, without kids, that sort of thing. And it's a highly emotional and uncomfortable process.
Yeah.
Especially when you're moving from one place to another.
Yeah.
Even within the same town.
Yeah. No. So, I mean, there's empathy, right? We have big empathy for those decision points. So I don't say that lightly, but I do say that I think folks need to understand that discomfort, and that discomfort, I think. So examples that I think of on this end that I'm running into with folks, and again, the full disclaimer statement is I validate that if that is their choice, that is fine, right? I'm not judging anyone that doesn't want to buy, that wants to rent or whatever, right?
Sure.
But I just think the reality, and educating people on it, is to say, hey, if that home isn't exactly what you want, educate yourself, because paint doesn't cost too much. Flooring isn't too terrible, right? And the other thing that I like to have, especially with my first time home buyers, that I'm trying to educate on this, where they haven't had that experience that you and I have had to deal with as homeowners, where you kind of get a feel of the cost of things, or the utilities that actually go in the house and different things. And it's different from a renter standpoint, but knowing, like, I'll have a client that says, oh, we're not going to buy that house because the flooring needs to be redone, and that's going to be $20,000. You're like, or you can buy that house, shop it out a little bit more aggressively on where you're going to get your flooring from. And then, that luxury vinyl plank snap in flooring, and a couple buddies and a couple of 6-packs, and you're done for $4,000.
So you say that, Chris, and I know you're a DIY person.
Again, not for everybody.
No, I'm just saying it's not for everyone.
Yeah.
Because not everyone wants to work on.
I love that you call me out.
And I'm calling you out just because I deal with those same clients that are like, I don't want to do this. I don't feel comfortable doing this. My husband is a great person that fix all kinds of things and tries to do what he can. But at the end of the day, there are some things you just don't want to have to do yourself,
Sure. Wife wishes that I didn't do plumbing.
Right. And so, so I think it's the comfort level of the person, because some people really have an aversion to, I don't want to do this myself. I would have to hire someone. I don't trust myself to do these changes.
And I totally validate
right.
that. Yeah.
And there's the other comfortability level of a person that says, oh, I can make that work. I can paint. I can do this. I can do that.
Yeah.
So it just depends on the personality and what they're comfortable with too.
And I agree with that. And I definitely agree with that. And I guess, and I will again disclaim my bias in this. But I guess where I'm going to is what's interesting in Flagstaff. So I'm just kind of putting it out there, right? So correct me if I'm wrong, call me out, and I love that you will. Is that if you are working a white collar job, right? If you're working a white collar job and you're making good money, spouse is working white collar, you guys are making good money together. What you can get in Flagstaff and what you are comfortable affording in Flagstaff, like there's all these different things like I'm seeing on YouTube right now of like what the middle class can no longer afford is this big like trending topic, right? Okay. And so you look at Flagstaff, you're like, hey, between the two of you working your white collar jobs, you're making six figures, and then you want to buy a house at $500,000. Good luck. What does $500,000 get you in Flagstaff? Right, we're going to be looking at townhomes, manufactured homes, and maybe in certain neighborhoods, some site built.
So you're saying maybe.
under $500,000.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. It's slim pickings. True. Yeah, you're true.
I have a licensed realtor here with me. You validated that. I'm not a realtor. I can't really say what homes are available on the market. So I'm making jokes. Yeah. But where I'm going with that is that one anomaly I have seen in market is like I'll have my blue collar trades people, right? And then they trade everything out, build their own house, and then can cut a lot of corners that other people just don't know about, can't figure out, or don't do. And it's like, no, that person can build an $800,000 house at, I won't even go as far to say at what, but at a significant discount because they traded work out and got creative and thought through things or did a little bit of work themselves, or from even the simple stuff of like, yeah, I won't go into that necessarily. It was just like there's simple is a relative term, but I do think where I'm going with this whole comment is I'm going to put this out there, and maybe we'll go off a whole segment of like I think white collar needs to blue collar some things to make their dreams happen.
I'm understanding what you're saying.
So like folks that are like the normal, like they wouldn't be DIYers, they just pay for it, right?
Okay.
Like you're saying,
see what you're saying.
Like
yeah,
those folks that just think like I should hire it.
Yeah.
But they want that house, want certain things that you might have to be comfortable like jumping on YouTube and figuring some things out on how to paint your own cabinets.
Sure.
And making that house work. I think that's a big solution in my mind because of my background. I know it's not for everybody, right. But I'm like, hey, if you want those, beautiful white cabinets and that's keeping you from buying these different houses on market.
Oh, you can hire someone to do that too. I mean, there's companies. Yeah.
And let's talk honestly, there's a spectrum, right? Right. There was like, hey, you could go and hire on a full on blown GC and have them doing everything for you. And, and it's like, you just press the easy button, but you're also cutting a bigger check, right?
Sure. Oh yeah.
Versus
contractor.
Yeah. Versus but then you could go like more of a sub route and you're kind of you're coordinating and you're connecting with your subs and you're kind of figuring out, or, and then where do you kind of go, a handyman or friends, or there's a whole sliding scale of versus you just picking up a paintbrush and do it yourself.
And I think it all depends on where you're at comfortably to do that.
Yes.
Because not everyone feels like I can go and figure out the subs like you're saying and stuff like that. Now, of course, we have different backgrounds because we work with some of these contractors. So some people are risk takers and say, I can do this. And then there's others that are not. And I don't want to mess anything up. So I'm going to make sure I hire someone.
True. And I think it all comes down to this big themes today of like, education, right? Do your homework, ask the questions. Like Nicole has background in it. Ask Nicole, right? And she can, and if she doesn't have the answers, whether it's, lining up with a prepossession goal of like talking to an attorney, or if it's, I have some contractor needs on this home, let's go, connect with some different contractors, network it. And there's so many willing and able resources that I've found in Flagstaff. And I'm not talking like, of course, like, hey, if we're going to do business, everyone's ready to take your money kind of thing. But no, there's so many people and genuine Flagstaff people that are like, hey, I'll walk the house with you. I'll, give you my opinion on it, give you, the thumbs up, thumbs
we
down.
have to find contractors in a pinch to get something done on a house before it closes.
Yeah.
And I was in that predicament around Thanksgiving.
Okay.
I was looking for contractors the Monday before Thanksgiving.
Gosh.
Mm-hmm.
And it worked out okay?
Yeah, it worked out. I found a great one. And so I've referred him out as well. But at that time of year, who's calling you back?
Not a lot.
Because they're on vacation because it's Thanksgiving week. Yeah. And who am I gonna get in touch with, and who's gonna answer my call?
Exactly.
And and so I did find it all worked out nicely. But yeah, beautiful. I mean, we as realtors take on these positions sometimes because the seller has already moved out of state, or they're already out of state, and so we have to solve these problems.
Or how many, let's go through. And that's, again, what people don't see or realize. How many homes have maybe been sitting, second homes in this market? They haven't been smelling around for mold. They haven't even been here, right? It's too snowy. They don't want to come. I always laughed at those memes of like, don't come to Flagstaff. It is completely closed down.
Yeah.
Right.
Flagstaff is closed.
Exactly. Yeah. And so, like all these things that guidance is huge. That guidance from a list agent or buyer's agent is huge.
Yeah. And sometimes you don't see it right away. I mean, I'm not an expert. Like I said, everything had to be moved out of the house.
Yep.
The carpets were getting ready to be cleaned. And that's when we found it. And then we just took it down. But that's what the owners decided. They wanted to get it done, but the owners were there. They came and stayed in the home in the winter. And we didn't know until their furniture was moved out. Yeah. Because we didn't really notice it. And it wasn't maybe as strong because we had more snow after that.
Yeah.
And it just created the ice
temperatures.
The temperatures too.
When temperatures start heating up, that's when the water's melting, and that's when you're going to get more. That's I'm not a biologist here, but when we talk about the conditions of mold growth, like heat definitely, or the warmth can help with that.
Yep.
So so many different aspects on that. And so I think ultimately where we're going with that whole, and we took a detour definitely when it comes to like the physical aspects of the house and people getting creative and figuring out, hey, how do I get there? Right? How do I get there? And is it a matter of saying, I want to pay for it, so I'm going to wait 2 years, I'm just save up for it? And in the perspective of that, and I can tell anyone, you and I can both tell anyone, like time flies like not,
Well, and we've had kids, and we have had homes with kids,
Yeah.
and my child was a year old when we moved in. Things are going to happen no matter what you check on home inspection wise. Something will happen the minute you move in, or maybe a month later, something will break or something. It's just part of owning a home. But as you have children in the house, it's harder to do those DIY projects when you're busy with that part of life too.
Absolutely. And I think that I mentioned this, I think before, maybe even last week, of like, I do believe that like things like Pinterest and HGTV have like ruined people. Right? Is because it set a potential unrealistic expectation of what a home should be. And
right, like the HGTV stuff. Yeah. I don't personally watch any of that stuff. Yeah. But I know a lot of people like to.
I love design. Like I love design. I love you. I specifically love I love the aesthetic of it, but utility of design. I love utility of design, right? To be able to say, hey, we're gonna make this to where it just functions, right? And so I enjoy that aspect of and have done DIY and remodel of my own, and learned a lot through that process. And so but I just think that we've set this expectation of, hey, you got to have the types of amenities and like, brand new counters and cabinets, and it's got to be white quartz. So you have a ghetto house, and like, no, like,
No.
my first home was the Formica, and it's Formica in there still. And so,
Well, like you
and
said, there's things that you live with and things that you can't, live
yeah,
with or live without. And you make those pros and cons lists.
yeah,
And even as a new homeowner, you're like, oh, I want all this. You got to find something that feels good. It's going to work for what you need. And then it doesn't have to be that forever home.
exactly.
I think some people get so stuck on it has to be the home that I'm going to be in for 10, 20 years or however long. People are staying in their homes longer. That is true. But that doesn't mean it has to be the forever home.
No, no. And so that does play into society, or like everything now mentality,
Well,
which isn't
like you
healthy
said,
either.
it's just everything looks so great online.
Yeah.
And that's not reality.
Yeah.
No.
No. And
So
so
that's where we're talking about the HGTV and
HGTV type
Pinterest, all
mentality.
that stuff.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, like this is how it's supposed to be. No, not everything is like that.
I wonder how much we could then go into the whole, of how much we could blame social media for our real estate woes. But I mean, people are buying them. And I think that that's the thing, is that I am excited about, I do think I'll be curious to see how Flagstaff goes through this. Cause I think in the next decade too, I think we'll see a lot of inventory. Where am I going with this comment here of, I think we'll see a lot of renovation, specifically because a lot of folks are in the homes with great rates and they don't want to move up. So they're going to improve that home. I think we'll see upscale of a lot of inventory in a lot of areas. So I think I'm excited about that. I think that there's going to be a lot of renovation in Flagstaff. I think that there's going to be, I think that's where people maybe need to come on board with that, not to keep hitting that point of like, you can improve that home, right? Like you said, whether it's the starter home, you'll move up, or whether it's the starter home, and that could be a dramatically different home. I know some fantastic clients of mine that bought the dream home downtown and just knew that it was what do they call it? Like it was a postage stamp type square footage.
Yeah.
And that they wanted their family to grow. And as they did that, they actually just last year put a second story on it.
Oh, neat.
Right? They saved up, built up. We talked through the financing of it all and figured that out. And they got the funds and put the second story on it. So they built up, right? And now it is that forever home, right? And so I think creativity, education, and creativity. Those are my takeaways today. And so I love it and I love that you're that type of a realtor that helps people through that process, because it's a mental process that they have to go through with all the emotions involved of being able to say, you got to be creative in this market right now. If you want to get near your target and help have the counseling of,
yes, we are counselors.
Almost counselor. Yeah.
We do wear that hat too.
Wear that hat of helping to understand these are the needs, these are the wants.
Yes.
Right. And what are the trade-offs? Like, it's a heck of a lot better to have some cabinets that you want to update in the next 3 to 5 years versus paying another check to your landlord. Let's talk about the reality of that.
True.
How bad do you really want to wait so you can afford
how much
XYZ?
Do they lose in equity in that time?
Yeah. And with, again, low digit single appreciation expected this year, we'll see how that pans out. And then historic average of 3 to 5.
But it's not going to be like negative, right?
Correct. That is, we're not seeing really any strong polls for depreciation.
We're not going to see those high numbers, right? Like we saw.
Even after 7% primary 30-year fixed interest rates in October, Phoenix, from a 20 city composite, is flat, 0. So no decline, no appreciation. We're only, and actually most of the country is on the upswing of prices. We have just a few Bay Area, like California stuff, that's seeing some decline in the most. I think maybe 1 or 2 cities like San Francisco, maybe double digit, but most of like 6 to 8% decline or depreciation. So again, if we've seen the worst behind us, which I really think we have, it's only going to increase.
It's what prices are going to increase.
Exactly. That's what I'm saying. It's only going to appreciate. Your house is only going to appreciate. Rates are only going to go down, and your houses are only going to appreciate. That, again, let's hope moderate. We're not telling people that it's going to be double, triple, whatever, but it's not getting cheaper.
No,
from the home price standpoint.
no. And not with Flagstaff being insulated.
And the in and out coming. I don't know how I feel about that.
I don't know if I believe it still, because
Isn't it going right next to Five Guys?
I know, but you can pull the city projects, and
Is
when
it
I
out
read
there?
it was a Whataburger. So
Oh,
I don't begin to be the expert on this,
okay.
but I feel like let's pull those city projects across and see. But I guess I'll believe it when I see it.
Yeah.
That's kind of how I'm at. I'm
Yeah.
I'm not sure about it.
Awesome. Any other major comments or statements you want to make out there to the home buyer, home seller right now?
No, I mean, definitely use a realtor and a lender and partner with someone you like and trust, and we're here to help. We're not here for anything else but to help you reach your goals.
Get educated and get creative.
Sure.
And let's become homeowners. Awesome. All
Thank
right.
you,
Thanks,
Chris.
Nicole. All right. Take care.
Bye-bye.